Hi everyone. In the previous class, we have seen how to create an XSD file and also we have seen how to create an XML file and also how to make link an XML file with the XSD. Yeah, I will just give you an overview here. You can observe. I'm going to create an XSD. That XSD I can create with the help of a namespace or I can create without a namespace. If I'm going to create with the namespace, I have to use the target namespace attribute. The target namespace attribute. If you are not using any kind of namespace, you don't need to use the target namespace attribute. And in this XSD, we are going to use various kind of predefined elements: schema, element, content type, complex type, etc., restrictions, etc. Is all these are available in a predefined package called like this, some blah blah 2001 slash XML schema. So I need to import that. So for that I have used the a attribute called XML NS attribute. Okay, so if you would like to reuse that, I am going to give the short name. That short name I am going to reuse every time. The same concept we are going to write with the help of no namespace also. Yeah, this is the way you are going to create an XSD file. Now coming to creation of an XML file. So every XML file you need to prefix with a predefined package name, a predefined namespace. If that file is extended with the namespace, right? So if it is extended with the namespace, I have to import that with the help of XML NS attribute, and I'm going to give the short name, and I'm going to write prefix with everything that short name. And if you are going to use a namespace for a XSD, in XML also we need to make it link that. For that we are going to use an attribute called schema location attribute. This schema location attribute is available in a package called XML schema instance package. So to import that, I'm going to use once again XML as attribute, and I'm going to give the short name. With that short name, I'm going to call schema location, and I'm going to write that package name, that namespace name, followed by the file name k.xsd. k.xsd. Yes, and every tag I'm going to prefix with the short name of the package name, short name of the namespace. If it is not extended with the namespace, then we have to use an attribute no namespace schema location attribute. That is the only difference between this with the namespace and without namespace. With namespace and without namespace. Yeah. Generally, this schema location, known as schema location, are meant for to make communicate with an XML file with the XSD. XML file with the XSD. Now let's see few examples. These example will give clear-cut idea about the real-time understanding of XSD. My requirement is so take an employee. So this employee having employee number, employee name, and employee salary. And I'm having closing of employee. Like this, we may have n number of employees. Those employees I'm going to make it available inside the tag employees tag. I mean, I'm giving the general structure. Meaning that if I would like to define the statement in a company, uh, one or more employees may exist. If an employee exists, that employee should have employee number, employee name, employee salary, and this employee number should be an integer type, I mean numerical type. Like for example, I'm taking it as byte type, and employee name should be in the form of a string format, and the salary should be some kind of, it has to allow some kind of decimal format, decimal format, or you can allow any kind of format. For example, let me take some kind of decimal format. Yes, so this is my requirement, and all these have to come order one by one by, meaning that they have to follow sequential order. Sequential order means first employee number should exist, then employee name exists, then salary exists. Like out of order should not be allowed. Out of order should not be allowed. So this is my requirement. This is my requirement. So in order to satisfy this requirement, we need to first analyze the given criteria. We need to first analyze the given criteria. What is the criteria they have given? We have a company, that company having n number of employees, minimum one employee, maximum n number of employees, maximum n number of employees. Yeah, okay, fine. So first, if you observe this criteria, they are saying that the main root element is employees. So employees is one kind of an element. Employees is one kind of element. Yes, right? So this is what? A root element. What? Root element. And what about this one? This is a sub element. This is a sub element. And if I take one more employee, this one we call it as a sub element. This one we call it a sub element. Yes, guys. If you observe here, this is the one main element. If it contains sub elements, this element we call it as what kind of element? Complex element. Complex element. Okay, fine. I hope you understood. Yes. Now let me take this attribute, this tag, employee tag. Now employee tag is what kind of element? It is a kind of sub element. But if you take in depth about this one, it contains sub elements. It contains sub elements. Employee number, employee name, salary. That is why we'll call this also a complex element. A complex element. And you know already the formula. While you are going to define an element as complex element or not, while you are going to define element as complex element or not, for that we are going to use complex type tag. Complex type. Once you define an element as complex type, you have to compulsory use either sequence, choice, or all. Choice or all. Make it revise all this. Yes. So as I am defining an element as complex element, how we are going to define that one? With the help of complex type tag. With the help of complex type tag. Once I define a complex type tag, I need to understand whether this data should have to come in order or not. According to given requirement, what they are saying, they are going to ask that I should have to come in the order. That is why I have to use the sequence tag. Yes, guys. So based on the given requirement, I have analyzed this kind of thing. Yes. Now let me write this XSD first. So I will take this first example in the this whiteboard. Later I will take one more example that I will take directly in the editor. Yes, guys. I am going to write one kind of XSD. I am calling it as employee.xsd. Yes. So guys, already I said, while writing an XSD file, you have to think whether I would like to use the namespace concept or not. So to make it our simplicity, I am going for no namespace, meaning that as I am having only one single program, I don't want to go for any kind of namespace concept to make it simplify purpose. Okay, fine. So I will write. So first, every XSD, whatever the XSD that you are going to take, what is the main requirement? Every XSD must and should have to start with a tag called schema tag. Start with a tag called schema tag. So I'm going to take that schema tag, or else I will take the new one. Employee dot XSD. So every XSD file must and should have to start with a tag called schema tag. Schema tag. Yes, guys. And it contains the element tag, complex type, all these. All these. So I would like to know whether from which location I need to get all these predefined tags, all predefined tags. I have to get from XML schema location, right? HTTP colon www dot w3 dot org slash to 1 slash XML schema. From this namespace I need to get. So if you want to import, I have to use an attribute called XML attribute. For that, I'm going to take some kind of name as X, or I will take as XS. Then I am going to define that the schema tag is available in a package called XS package. Yes. That is what I would like to define, right? Whenever you are going to write an XSD, you have to define the namespace as well as you have to define the package name. That's it. So I am not using any kind of namespace. That is why I would like to go for only package name along with this kind of structure. Yes, XS schema. Fine. And one more important thing, guys, I forgot it in the previous class. That important thing is we have to define one more attribute that is default element form default. So that value you have to pass as qualified, meaning that by default every element of this XSD schema are unqualified. By writing the statement, I am making every element as qualified element. This you have to write. Yes, fine. So this is the first line. And I am going to make it end of this schema, XS schema. Between these two lines, I have to go for writing all the elements. Yes. According to our requirement, what is the first element? Employees. How we are going to write an element? That structure we have seen. How we are going to write an element? That element you have to write with the help of where? This one. Element name equal to element name. If you want, you can define the type. That is a simple element. If you want to go for the complex element name equal to employee some element name followed by complex type, right? As employee is the complex type, you have to follow this structure. Yes. So to make it clear understanding, I am taking like this. So you have to define the element. That element is available in which package? XS package. Guys, I am going to interchangeably use the package as namespace. XS colon element. So what is the name? Name equal to employees. Okay, na guys? Yes. So with this, the first employees element is created. I am going to close this employees element. Close the employees element. Now I would like to define which kind of element it is. It's a kind of complex element. As I'm defining complex element, I have to use the complex type. So complex type is available in which package? XS package. XS complex type. And all the data should have to come in which order? Sequence. They have to come in the sequence. Yes. So whichever the order I have to open, I have to close all this also. XS complex type I need to close. Before that, I have to close the sequence. Before that, I have opened the sequence. Okay, fine. Now, after defining the sequence, once again, after defining the sequence, see, observe here, I have defined the sequence, meaning that I have to get all the elements in the sequence order. Then I have to define this employee element. How we are going to define that employee element? By using once again XS colon element. element. What is the name of the element? Name of the element is employee. Employee. Okay, fine. I'm going to close that element. Close that element. Yes, this is an element, but this element is what kind of type? Once again, complex element. Once again, complex element. So that is the reason I'm going to take once again complex type. XS complex type. Closing of XS complex type. Closing of XS type. And all this has to come in which order? Sequence. So have to come in the sequence type. That is the reason I have tried like XS sequence. Closing of XS sequence. Yes. I'm going to find that all this has to come in the order. All this has to come in the order. First sequence is meant for what? All the employees has to come in the sequence. Second sequence is meant for what? All the employee number, employee name, salaries have to come in the order. So up to here we have completed. Now you have to define every simple element. You have to define the every simple element. As I would like to define every simple element. So every simple element you are going to define simply XS colon normal thing element. I have to define the name of the element. What is the name of the element? The name of the element is employee number. Employee number. Yes, guys. If it is a complex type, I'm going to close this one. I'm going to define whether it is a complex type or not. If it is a simple element, I have to simply define the type. Which type it is. Which type it is. So employee number is which type. For example, let me take it as a kind of byte. So byte is also a predefined thing. So that I have to come download from the XML schema. Next kind of attribute tag access element name equal to what is that employee name employee name. The type is access colon string access colon string. And what is another one? Access colon element name equal to salary. Name equal to salary. Type equal to, for example, it's a kind of short edit. Yes, guys. So this is what their requirement. Their requirement. So for that requirement, I have created one schema. One schema, and I'm going to save it with an extension called employee.xsd. Okay, fine. I'm going to save it aside. I'm going to save it aside. Now I would like to create an XML file. I would like to create an XML file. For example, that XML file I'm going to save it with uh, any name emp.xml file. emp.xml file. Guys, I think the root element should have to start with the employee stack. Employee stack. And once the employee's root element starts, I need to define the sub elements. One is employee. If you would like to go for more number of employees, I can go for more number of. I don't want. I would like to have only one employee. So that is why I'm taking only one employee. So for this employee, I am having employee number 101, closing of employee number, closing employee name JK, and closing of e name. Guys, I need to don't want to confuse. I have taken e name. And salary, for example, 1,000, closing of salary. Closing of salary. Yes, I have created this XML file. Now the question is, in the morning class, I have defined clearly. Uh, what I said is, 1 minute. So in the morning class, what I said, I have taken here one attribute. I have taken here one attribute. If you want, you can observe. What I have to take? I have to take the package name first. I have to take the package name, and I have defined this XML schema instance to make it schema location or no name schema location. As I'm not using any kind of package, I have to use the no name schema location, and I have to use the package name. Okay, fine. Observe. So first, what we have to know, you have to see, guys, observe. You have to import. You have to import. So to make it link XSD with the XML, you have to use an attribute called no namespace schema location. No namespace schema location, guys. Observe, I'm writing directly. No namespace schema location, and I need to write blah 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 XML schema instance. I write XML schema instance. If you write this one as well as separately, you will get an error because this no namespace schema location is available in which package? It is available in another package. The what is that package? That sorry, I made some mistake here. Here you have to write the file name. The file name. What is that file name? That file name is emp.xsd. That file name is emp.xsd. If you write like this one, it cannot connect because the parser cannot understand what is this attribute. What is this attribute? So to make it understandable this attribute, you have to define this package. What is that package? Some HTTP colon blah 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 XML schema instance package. So to make it import, I have to use the namespace XML namespace. I'm going to give the short name as XSI. I'm going to close. So to make it understood by this, available in which package? XSI package. Which package? XSI package. Yes. Now what happen is, if I would like to communicate, I can go for communicate with this file with that XML file. Why I didn't write an equal and employees? Why equal and employee, equal and employee number, all this? Because in XSD, I didn't use any kind of package. If you would like to use a package, here I'm going to simply write target namespace attribute. Target namespace attribute. Yes, fine, guys. So this is the simple example of creation of an XSD with the help of by linking an XML file. Yes. Now what I will do is I will take a simple example, the same example, and I'm going to show the output with various kind of validations. Yes, I have taken an untitled XML file, or else what I will do is, guys, I will take directly the executable file open. I have taken an XML file, jemployees.xml file. Observe, guys, whatever the thing that I have explained, the same code will be here. The same code will be here. Yeah, I am going to remove in order to avoid the confusion for you. Yes, guys. So first thing is prologue, XML prologue, and second thing is I'm going to use the root element as employees. Root element as employees, and to make the understand by the parser as known as schema location, known as space schema location, I'm going to use this namespace. For this, I have given the short name as XSI. That XSI I need to prefix with the known namespace schema location, and it is going to link with which file? Employee.xsd. Employee.xsd, and all the remaining things are same. Now I need to open employee.xsd. Yes, I have opened this employee.xsd file. Yes. If you observe this employee.xsd, so it is going to start with the schema tag, and it's going to end with the schema tag, and by default, every element of the form is unqualified. So to make it qualified, I have to use an attribute called element form default, and all the elements, schema, element, complex type, sequence, all these has to make it understood with parser. I have to use a predefined package, a predefined namespace, that is XML schema namespace. So for that, I am going to import with the help of XML NS attribute. For that, I have given the short name as XS, and I have taken the same thing. So first element is employees. It is a complex type, and what are the elements that I am getting? All those should have to follow the sequence order, and the other element is another element is sub element is employee. If that sub element is also a complex type, it has to follow sequence. If it is coming in sequence, the first element is a sub element. Again, once again, employee number. Name of the sub element is employee number, which is a simple type. That is why I closed it here itself. and employee name is a simple element, employee salary is simple element, employee salary is short, employee name is string, employee number is byte, and I'm going to close all this in the same order. The same order, yes, guys. So with the help of this no namespace schema location, it is these both are connected. These both are connected. If you want to validate, I'm going to click on validate. The file is valid. The file is valid. Guys, if I made something mistake, I'm going to click here. The file is going to provide an error. Expected end of tag complex type. Data complex type. If I missed some tag directly, now also you'll get an error. What is that? Expected end of tag XS colon element. Fatal error during schema scan. Like this, you will get an error. If I remove this type, observe, click on valid, the file is valid. I need to define. So by default, it is having its own type. Okay, fine. So this way, we are going to validate the schema XSD. Now what I will do is, I have created this one. I am going to remove all the employees, meaning that 0 employees are there. 0 employees are there. If I click on valid, empty content is not valid for content model employee. Observe guys. So what I did, I have to define at least one employee. As I'm not mentioned any employee, if I click on validate, empty content is not valid, meaning that it has to exit at least one employee. So if I paste here, if I click on validate, the file is valid, meaning that it is going to following this structure. It is going to follow this structure. For example, guys, instead of 101, I am taking as once again Jaya. Now is it a valid one? According to the requirement, it is not valid because it is a byte. Value Jaya does not match the regular expression fact. Face it. I hope you understood, right? So here it has to allow some numerical value. Can I allow here numerical value? Yes, of course, because it is a string. Can I allow salary here? It can allow, for example, I can allow only short kind of data type. Yes, guys. Fine. So now, for example, what I'm doing is I'm going to take one more employee. I'm going to define like this. What is employee number? 102. What is the employee name? KJ. What is the salary? For example, 1000 salary. Now, if I am going to validate, you will get another error. Element employee is not allowed for content model employee. What is the meaning of this one, guys? As I have defined two employees, but here I have defined only for one employee. I didn't define any kind of restriction, whether I need to allow one employee or two employees or three employees or four employees or n number of employees. So as I didn't mention, by default, it is going to take as only one employee alone. But here I have defined the two employees. So to make it allow, I have to use an attribute. So which tag we are going to repeat? Employee. So for that, I have to use minOccurs attribute. minOccurs equal to, for example, if I write one, now once again I'm saving. Once again click on validate. Again you will get the same error because minimum I have to allow one employee. Maximum I didn't define. So for example, I'm defining maxOccurs as 2. maxOccurs as 2. Click on valid. File is valid. Now I'm going to validate. Now observe, the file is valid. So minimum one employee has to allow, maximum 2 employees allowed. Now for example, once again I'm going to add one more employee. If I click on validate, the file is, again you are going to get an error because maximum 2 employees are going to allowed, but I'm defining as 3 employees. So for example, here I'm going to define as 3. The file is valid. If I click on validate, the file is valid once again. Now for example, like this, n number of employees are going to add. So at the time, what you can do is you can go for only unbounded. I don't know exactly how many number of employees are getting. The file is valid. Yes, guys. The difference between this DTD and this XSD. Minimum occurrence there I have to define either 0 or 1. Here I can define as 2 or 3 or 4. For example, minimum occurrence should be 3. Or for example, minimum occurrence should be 2. Minimum occurrence should be 2. If I go for removing these two employees, as I have defined at least one employee, now what it is going to make it as invalid because minimum number of employees are 2. Minimum number of employees are 2, but here. So this feature is not available in the DTD. This feature is not available in the DTD. Okay, Namma? So max occurrence should be unbounded. Unbounded. What is the meaning of unbounded? That can be n number of values. If you want to go for a fixed value, you can go for the fixed value also 5 or 6 or something. 6 or something. Okay, fine, guys. One thing. So this way we are going to link an XML file with the XSD. And so I hope you understood now. So every XML file is going to satisfy this structure. Then only it has to provide a valid file. Otherwise, it's going to provide an invalid file. Guys, so this XML file. So with the help of this XML file, I can able to generate an XSD by simply going for example, I will take some Google. I will define like XSD generator. XSD generator. If I go for some web page, so you have n number of sites are there. So I will simply copy here. So observe. I will simply give an XML file. It is going to generate that XSD. Generate XSD. I'm clicking on generate XSD. Observe, guys, the same thing. Whatever the code that I have written. So don't follow this structure, but try to learn first. Okay. See, observe the same thing. So the same thing. XS schema, attribute form default, unqualified actually by default, and attributes are unqualified. I make it as elements as qualified. I have used the extension XS colon element employees byte string short. By default, it is going to generate everything. So what you have to give is you have to give a valid XML file. Valid XML file automatically will get an XSD generator. An XSD generator. Okay, fine. So I hope you understood this example clearly. In the next class, I will take the continuation of the XSD, restrictions in the XSD, attributes in the XSD, and I will take one more example. I hope you understood clearly. Thank you.